Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The miraculous escape of all the 379 aboard the Japan Airlines aircraft at Haneda Airport yesterday brings into focus the meticulous action plan and quick thinking on the part of the cabin crew that ensured that the evacuation happened in a span of just 90 seconds, a drill that the Japan Airlines Limited instills in its cabin crew even before they are all deployed for service. We delve deep into how this escape happened, how shocking and surprising it was that there was not a single individual aboard the aircraft that suffered fatally. I start my conversation with Dr. Satoru Nagao, and I'm going to try to go back in history in 1985, Dr. Nagao, where a tragic incident happened of an aircraft of an airline, which is the Japan Airline Limited, that led to the death of over 500 people. Now, this accident that had happened then ensured that the airline took maximum effort. Every single safety rule was embedded, ingrained into all the staff members who worked for the company. It has been, I think, decades since then that this incident took place, and with the handbook that was provided to these crew members, the cabin crew, it was ensured that the drill within a span of 90 seconds allowed for all the passengers as well as the pilots and the cabin crew to evacuate that plane. That was a massive air crash. It just formed into an inferno, and whoever was watching it, in fact the visuals on your screens right now, would have assumed that all aboard that flight would have most definitely gotten killed. Dr. Nagao, if you can hear me.
Yes. Yeah, this is tragic incident, but cabin crew showed well-trained performance in this case, because this time the announcement system was broken. So that's why the pilot cannot control the passengers. So only cabin crew need to deal with them. So they decide which route is best, and so decision has made themselves by the cabin crew, and they evacuate all of the passengers safely. So that's why the view from this situation, the cabin crew's train level is enough. The problem is the traffic control. Of course, you have already mentioned that there is less in the past, and so even if this airport system is not perfect but nearly perfect, that's why this is mystery, why this has happened. One of the conditions we worry about this, Haneda Airport is very small airport. Despite this, the very crowded airport. Recently, especially after the COVID-19, more planes join, and not only the domestic flight, but also the more number of the international flight concentrate this area. So that's why this time the earthquake happened, and the Coast Guard plane need to leave from this same airport. So traffic jam has very big, very dense. So that's why under such kind of situations, how to control the air traffic it's a little difficult.
Yeah.
But the view from the system, it is nearly perfect. Despite this, such kind of accident has happened. That is mystery indeed.
Absolutely. Dr. Ngao, obviously, there are a lot of speculation at this point in time. How was it that an aircraft, a Coast Guard aircraft, was let run astray on the runway which had already been cleared for the descent of the Japan Airline aircraft aboard, the commercial airline aircraft? Obviously, a catastrophe that Japan was undergoing, it still is, a multitude of earthquakes. There is a lot of commotion, there's a lot of chaos. You need the emergency materials, you need the relief materials and workers to reach the destinations at the soonest possible. And therefore, was there a slight error of judgment from the ATC side? Yes, one can perhaps assume that safely. But at the end of the day, the lives of the 379 that was saved, and we say this as a miraculous escape because, you know, the aircraft just burst into a huge ball of fire. And the fact that, I mean, not a single person who was actually witnessing that crash would have ever imagined that there were these, even a single person could have come out alive from that crash. But that's exactly what happened. Not just one, 379 of them actually came out safe and sound. Few of them were injured, but majority of them unscathed. And that gives you an idea of how things operate within the company. What are the kind of training, what are the kind of security measures, safety measures that are ensured aboard the aircraft? And we are talking about that, and we discuss about that. And Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, I was going through one of these reports, and there is this very nice description that is given that after the 1985 aircraft crash that took place of a Japan Airlines aircraft that led to the death of 524 people, there was a complete overhaul of how the company looked at its security and safety regulations. In fact, 15 years after, it decided to build a museum right inside the company's headquarters to remind anybody and everybody, including the staff members who were recruited, of the devastating attack that took place, and thereby the full commitment of the company and the message and the narrative that it gives out is never again is that going to happen. That is the kind of commitment that the airline had in allowing for this successful evacuation that took place yesterday.
It was a very unfortunate incident. Can you hear me, Megha?
Yes.
It's very unfortunate, but let me tell you one thing. Let us talk the facts. In these accidents, the first thing is the biggest victim is the fact. People do not bring out the fact. Until and unless we do an honest inquiry into it, you will not come to know the fact. Then what ATC has to say, what the cockpit voice recorder has to say. I'm a professional accident investigator. I've done more than 30 accident investigations. I will tell you now, look at the picture. It is a 3,000 yards close to that runway. And on top of that, when he is coming into land, he first hits the aircraft, which is on the runway, and he rolls down burning till the end where he stops. And you can see him parking there on the right side as you look at it on the left side. And this is a big runway, there is no doubt about it. The number of aircraft which are parked on the right-hand side, you can see, it means it is a busy airport, there is no doubt. And how did the aircraft come on the runway? That is what is there. When you have given me clearance to land as an ATC, it is your responsibility to make sure there is nothing on the runway. The problem arises if there is bad visibility. Problem even arises on airfields where the conversation is not understood. What the ATC is saying, the other pilot or something is not understanding. That happens when multiple languages are going on. Even that problem takes place. But here it is absolutely clear that the aircraft has been given a clearance to land. He lands and he hits the aircraft which is on the runway. Now, how did the aircraft come on the runway? Was he clearing the runway? But there is nothing called clearing the runway because he's landing in this direction. The runway in use was in which the direction, say, from top to bottom. That was the direction in use. So, obviously, either that aircraft had landed and was backtracking on the runway by the permission of the ATC. And I've seen these accidents happening in a number of places of the world where the ATC says you're clear to backtrack and you are clear to land.
Yeah.
So one is backtracking on the runway, one is landing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or one thing more, Megha, he is coming into land and you can see the apron. There is a taxi track joining on from the left hand side, and this aircraft has quickly come and tried to line up for takeoff. And this chap is coming from behind, and he landed on, touched him on top, and then started burning. It could have happened that way. But unfortunately, people don't bring out. From yesterday onwards, there are so many informations coming. Nobody is coming out with the right information. What was the Coast Guard aircraft doing? First thing we want to know that. Was he told to line up? Was he told to clear? After landing, what was he doing? And who gave him the clearance?
Okay.
It
all right.
happened.
Fair enough.
Told.
Yeah, all those points have to be scrutinized, and that's exactly what the authorities would be doing at this point of time. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, is there a likelihood that had Japan not been facing these series of earthquakes and there were not emergency services that had to be deployed and the relief operations that had to be carried out, where these Coast Guard aircraft had to be lifted off at the soonest possible? See, now this is an emergency. You need to gather all your resources, you need to gather all your manpower and send to the area where there are these series of earthquakes that have happened, which are above the Richter scale of 7, which is devastating. Now imagine if such a thing was to happen in any part of our country, there would be thousands that would be killed. Not to mention destruction of property of crores and crores of rupees. The fact that this has not happened in Japan is because it's a seismic zone, and the country and the government authorities have ensured that there is little to no damage that happens to property and people, and that's what we have witnessed. But in a situation where it is chaotic, quick decisions need to be taken. You have to think on your toes. And then you have this collision that takes place between a Coast Guard aircraft and this commercial aircraft. Now, would the likelihood of a crash been perhaps negligible had Japan not seen this travesty of earthquakes?
Well, these are speculation, right? You are asking me to be an astrologer, but unfortunately, I'm not one. And therefore, I wouldn't want to delve into that because, whether if this wouldn't have happened, could that have happened? Well, this has happened. That's the reality today. Right now, why has this happened? We will only know after a detailed inquiry, because I was not in Japan. I was not an eyewitness to that. So, it would be wrong on my part to even comment on why it had happened. But having said that, there's a very important part that we are missing out here. How did the passengers survive this?
Right.
There were not one, two, or three. There were hundreds of them. And kudos to Japanese culture, Japanese discipline, Japanese culture, Japanese discipline, Japanese planning, and their response to disaster, their response, their risk mitigation abilities. I admire it so much. There was a time that Japanese engineering used to be admired. Today it's a time that we celebrate Japanese culture. It's the discipline of the people that, and not a single passenger I'm being given to understand that they were running for their luggages. Had it happened in India, I don't think we would have behaved the same way. We'd have still tried to, pick up that laptop bag, my data is important, or that trolley is important, or that jewel is important. We need to get beyond that. Money can be made. And I was told that everybody followed the orders to the T. And, that's when in the given 10 or 20 minutes, all these people were evacuated. That's the biggest lesson that we need to discuss today. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to get into a kind of a speculation of sorts. Second thing is the crew has not panicked, because had the crew decided that I will, save myself first or get out, there wouldn't have been order. So which means, just like how the employees of Taj behaved when the 26/11 attack happened, each and every one of them stood there. They didn't leave that hotel. I admire that spirit. That's what individuals and nations are big nations have built up that. So today, I have a lot of admiration. I stand with Japan in this hour of crisis because the new year not been so good for them. First day was earthquake and then followed by this horrific crash. But, even in this bad times, I see a lot of silver lining because, of course, my condolences for the bereaved souls. There were some casualties, but then it could have been far, far more worse.
I absolutely agree with you, and that's exactly where the direction of the discussion was what I was wanting to take forward as well. And Dr. Nagao, again, all these points that have been mentioned by Wing Commander Sudhakaran are true, and that's the way the Japanese work. Now, you yourself understand, being a Japanese national, how things operate in your country. And if you could shed more light, particularly with regards to how Japan Airlines functions and the day-to-day, the way of life for the Japanese, and how there is utmost respect for rules to be followed, regulations and security protocols to be completed.
It is a great honor for me to receive such kind of very kind word from the prominent Indian experts, and so it is honor for me as a Japanese. And thank you very much. Well-trained society rely on the trust because these people know if they follow the leader's decision or group decision, they will get the benefit. That kind of mutual trust make people disciplined. And such kind of discipline comes from the education. So in the school, how to behave as a part of group is, but this education makes the discipline in the group. But at the same time, every time the group delivers the benefit to all the members of the group, that is that kind of the mutual trust between the member and the group. That's why such kind of situation has happened. But at the same time, every 5 years, Japan faces a big earthquake. This is it is unfortunately and fortunately, this is good training. That's also true. So we are 18% of the big earthquake in the world concentrate to this island. 4 plates, the North American plate and Eurasian plate crash in the Noto Peninsula this time. But the 4 plates concentrate these places, and every 5 years we face a big earthquake, so we need to prepare the earthquake. We live with earthquake. That is an unfortunate situation, but this situation makes or demands how to behave as a group, I think.
I completely agree with you. And like Wing Commander Sudhakaran said, and there are a lot of reports appreciating how the crew members were thinking on their toes. They had been given this training and they exactly mirrored the drills numerous times that they had followed in terms of their training that happened. But at the same time, it has to be appreciation showed where it's due, where the passengers, they followed every single instruction of the crew members. Obviously, there was no time to get their luggage from the cabins, and that's exactly what they did. They did not follow. They did not go in the haphazard directions that may have been expected of the crowd of 300 plus, 300, 370 plus, and that made all the difference. Quickly, then, Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, what are the lessons the world can take from this evacuation that happened that saved so many lives?
Megha, no doubt about it. I know about Japan a lot because I was there when I was a child. I was brought up there, so I know very well what Japan is. Question is, when Gopala Tower was burning out here, I saw myself in Delhi that 14 Japanese people were there. They sat in a row in a Buddha position, and the evacuation was taking place where people were committing suicide, and that is how they came out. There's no doubt about their discipline. It is superb. So let us give them the total credit for that. But being a professional, let me put my mind on that also. This accident could have been avoided. Let me tell you one thing. It is the cake on the table, the sweet part of it is the discipline of the crew. Very good. Excellent. But I am sorry. We tried to cover up as to what actually happened which led to this accident. We will not be doing a professional job. At least I will like to hear as to why did the aircraft come on the runway. That is my interest, because Japanese discipline is par excellence. But something more to be has to be given also. We must do the professional aspect, and Japanese are very professional. I'm certain that they will get deep into that thing, and that problem will also be solved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. On that note, I'm out of time, and I thank all of you for joining us on the telecast. Our prayers with the Japanese. There are a series of earthquakes. There are at this point of time more than 60 people that have died. There is destruction of property, but it has largely been a controlled effort by the government and the authorities and their discipline, and also the series of decisions and implementation of those decisions that have allowed for minimum damage to occur for the people, for the country of Japan.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.